Good morning and welcome back to Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to continue our deep dive into the Alternity Game Master's Guide. Now, I do apologize. Normally, we do this in the morning after I get off of work, uh, but I went to bed. I was I was absolutely exhausted. So I'm sorry I left anybody hanging, but I figured if I'd probably wake up in time to do it around this time. So this would be an acceptable alternative, especially because any of you over on the East Coast can still take advantage. Obviously, we're just going to miss out on anyone in England. No, it's still kind of early for them. Maybe they can still watch too. So, anyways, regardless, I'm happy to be back. Actually kind of excited. I got my eBay shipment today of there we go. 4 different modules. These are old school. These are absolutely old school. And I'm kind of excited about it. We are actually in the process of putting a game together. Me and some friends, we're gonna do it. I mean, obviously, we're all scattered, so it does have to be played online. But we are we're not gonna stream it. It's not gonna be streamed. I might record it so that we can put it up later. I don't know. It kind of depends on what the interest level will be. But for me, somebody who has not gotten to play very much and who has a tendency to, when I have tried running games in the past, to be a bit more of a railroader. I don't know. I've got a lot of work, and so part of the reason that we're doing it and we're doing it offline, not because I'm embarrassed, but because I want to be able to stumble, I want to be able to fail, and I don't know how well that would be received on stream. So if it goes well, we'll upload it. If it doesn't, we'll I'll still provide feedback on how it went. But I figured going with some pre-published modules would help to ease me into that process. So Glenn says, "Boo, railroader, boo." No, I don't disagree, Glenn. I ring your bell of shame. That's fine. I get it. I deserve it. But again, I'm acknowledging my limitations, my faults, and I want to be better. That's actually one reason that I'm reading the Game Master Guide. A lot of times it can be it's not necessarily the best as far as like presenting a game that somebody might not know. But I'm reading it more for me so that I can go through and kind of and see some of that game master advice. Obviously, I've been involved with the Four Color Cafe or Game Master Insights or those channels or those shows with Bear and Legion of Myth. So though I've gotten some inkling, but again, going back to the source, going back to the Game Master's Guide, I think is absolutely important. So that's one reason that I've been doing this particular read through. And it's one reason that I put my friends on on the spot, told them I wanted to run the game and that I wanted them to play in it because I want their feedback. I want to be told, hey, you did this wrong. Hey, you need to try this. So we'll see how it goes. I am extremely nervous, but I tend to be better at getting things done when I can be held accountable. In fact, our little group chat for it is literally called Holding Brian Accountable. So anyways, at this point, like I said, I've got 4 modules. 2 of them are kind of intro modules that actually were originally free with purchase of the Alternity Player's Handbook or the Alternity Game Master Guide. And so they're just like little 16-page adventures. There's one that's a 32-page adventure and one that's a 64-page adventure. So, obviously a variety of material, but I took the shorter ones because this is supposed to be a one shot for everyone. Maybe two sessions, but again, it's just supposed to be a quick. We're not planning on a long-term campaign because I don't want to bogart everybody's time. But anyways, the point being, we're gonna see how it goes. I'm kind of excited. I've been having fun doing the read through, so it's kind of time to get off the pot and get to work. So that's where we're at. Let's see. All right. Anyways, yeah. So needless to say, I'm waiting for votes from the players to see what they think and what they want to play. There's 5 people in the group and only 2 have voted so far. So I will let you know when I have more information. All right. Well, with that said, how about we go ahead and get started? Because I will be honest, right now I'm planning on getting through supporting cast and attributes, but we'll see what the grandson says. All right. Chapter 6. Real quick, also, as far as programming goes, as of right now, well, actually, right now there shouldn't be any interruptions, but there may be an interruption for a week because I will be out of the country. If that happens, we need to make a final decision today. Otherwise, it's not happening. But otherwise, I'm going to try and get through as much of the book as possible. So today's going to be chapter 6 and 7. Actually, let me look at something real quick. I know, super professional, folks. I know that's what you come here for. Oh, that's right. Okay. So we're going to do chapter 7 and 8 today. Chapter 9, I'm probably going to keep on its own. And then we'll do vehicles and spaceships and probably alien artifacts. And then we'll just have a couple episodes left after I get back. So anyways, all right, let's get started. One of the Game Master's rewards is the opportunity to create and portray intelligent supporting characters. Heroes don't live in an empty universe. Interacting with the supporting characters is often the focus of entire adventures and always part of the story. Realistic motivations, appropriate game stats, and believable personalities are all components of a supporting character. You decide how and what one of these characters says or does when the heroes associate with them, and what they're doing behind the scenes when the heroes aren't around. When heroes foil the plan to kidnap the government minister, does the villain feign surrender? Does he retreat and gather his forces? Does he fly into an insane rage? Speaking through a supporting character, you can deceive the heroes, offer suggestions, issue threats, or jump in with a helping hand. All right. Creating supporting characters. The process of creating full-fledged imaginary people may seem daunting. Every human being and alien has his, her, or its own background, family history, job, friends, morality, ideas, dreams, and aspirations. Few of the characters you may create will require this level of development. At the basic level, you don't need more than a brief description and a reason for his being in the scene to bring in a supporting character. Many game masters prefer to incorporate personality, history, and attitude into each major supporting character. Everyone has seen the crime bosses anime that looks like anime. The crime boss's leg breaker is a minor villain in a story. But what if the bruiser is a retired professional wrestler down on his luck? He might not be happy with his new line of work. Finding ways to maintain a stable of interesting and believable supporting characters is a challenge and a delight to an experienced game master. All supporting characters need a thumbnail sketch or description so that the players can visualize what kind of person their heroes are dealing with. First impressions count. Once you've chosen a couple of descriptive phrases to paint a quick picture of the supporting character, consider how the character will sound, look, and act. What interests and motivates him, and what does he talk about? The combination of two contrasting characteristics makes for an interesting thumbnail personality. An argumentative but naive character could be a stubborn, misinformed cretin who just won't admit that he's wrong. An impulsive and hot-tempered character might be in the habit of acting before he thinks, quick to laugh and quick to anger. Non-professionals. Most supporting characters are non-professionals. They don't pursue one of the 4 heroic professions: combat spec, free agent, diplomat, or tech op. Of course, they still have jobs: doctor, accountant, school teacher, etc. Everyday folks and even the average thugs and gangsters aren't quite as capable as beginning heroes. These characters, however, may have a substantial number of skills from the profession lists and perform jobs that you might find professionals doing. In other words, not every person in a military uniform is a combat spec. Many low-ranking soldiers and junior officers don't have any profession at all. Of the characters who populate a typical campaign setting, 60 to 80% are non-professionals. If the majority of characters in a setting were heroic in nature, it would be difficult to keep the player's heroes at the center of the action. That's the thing. A lot of the book is general GM advice, or it's restating rules from the player's handbook. But again, that's one of the reasons that I'm reading it is, just I need to read more of this stuff. I need to read more anyways. But anyways, doing it live, I don't have a choice but to keep reading. All right. Let's see. All right, the non-professional. Many members of the supporting cast are normal people without a heroic profession. Some may not have the ability scores to qualify, and others may simply have never had the desire or opportunity. Despite this shortcoming, a non-professional can still function as an interesting supporting character, a faithful ally, or a dangerous villain. Non-professional characters have ability scores just like heroes. You can generate these scores using any method you want, or simply assign numbers that you think are appropriate. Supporting cast members receive an allotment of points to purchase broad and specialty skills just like heroes. A non-professional with a high intelligence score can easily have more skills than a hero with a low intelligence score. Since a non-professional character lacks a profession, he pays for all skills at the list price. Game masters generate all skills and secondary characteristics for non-professional characters normally. These supporting cast members receive the same number of stun, wound, fatigue, and mortal points as a hero with the same constitution score, and they determine their action check score and actions per round normally. A non-professional's base situation die for action checks is plus D0. He receives no action check bonus because he doesn't belong to one of the heroic professions. All right. Obviously, you can build a character or build a supporting character like a character, but my personal approach would just be, give it what you think is necessary. If it needs a particular skill, if it needs a particular attribute, well, you're the game master, so make it. All right, types of supporting characters. Each supporting character falls into one of 5 general categories: villains, allies, and sidekicks, employees and followers, experts, and extras. Most scenarios you create will feature at least one villain and a number of extras. The appearance of other supporting characters depends on the hero's choices and the decisions you've made about the setting. It is one thing I think is interesting. They're using a lot of what to me appear like, like acting terms, as opposed to role-playing terms. So I find that interesting that they're using those, but here we are. All right, villains. A well-crafted villain is indispensable in any campaign. Villains are the people who don't want the heroes to succeed and are willing to act on their desires. In a classic role-playing scenario, it is the villain's actions, such as attacking a populated settlement or killing someone the heroes know, that provoke the heroes into action. Or if an adventure opens with the heroes doing something that wasn't caused by a villain's action, the villain might be reactive instead of proactive, acting as an obstacle to the hero's plans. Just like the villains in good novels or movies, villains in your campaign need to have a decent motivation, a distinctive modus operandi, and a plan. If you decided that the local crime lord doesn't want the heroes to find the alien artifact hidden in the ruins, ask yourself why she cares, what she's likely to do about it, and how she's going to make her plan work. Does she want the ruins left abandoned to conceal evidence of a crime? Maybe she wants the artifact for herself and she's willing to let the heroes do the hard work of finding the relic so she can have her subordinates ambush them when they get back to town. Maybe she's more subtle than that and plants a turncoat in the heroes group. Or she might use her influence in the community to have the heroes arrested and their find confiscated. Don't waste time developing villains that the heroes will never meet. If you decided that the big boss is out of reach, concentrate on building character profiles for the major lieutenants and subordinates who will interact with the heroes. Think about ways you can keep a good villain around from adventure to adventure. If the heroes have a dedicated foe that they can't get their hands on, you can create plots in which the old villains try new tricks, are forced into temporary alliances with their hated foes, or pursue special vendettas against the heroes. A villain's power depends on his role in the campaign. An epic villain, one who could be around from story to story, should be stronger than the entire group of heroes. In order to bring him down, they will have to make unusual preparations, possibly embarking on a series of adventures just to get ready to face the true menace. Major villains might be defeated at the end of an adventure, but each one is about as tough as the party, and it will take a concerted and intelligent effort to defeat them. Minor villains can be disposed of in a single scene and aren't much tougher than a single hero. Characters of lesser importance than a minor villain, such as the deputies and security guards around a more important character, are extras. Let's see here. That's an example. Do I need to read the sidebars? Okay, yeah, real quick, last resort points. Most villains don't get them. Or they get very, very few compared to the players. Let's see. Actually, you know what? Let's read the example here. A group of heroes averaging achievement level 5 wanders from planet to planet as traders and troubleshooters on their drive freighter. A minor villain could be a character of level 3 to 6, perhaps a match for one hero alone. Major villains should be level 5 to 8, with special advantages or resources to make them a match for the entire party. An epic villain for this group could be level 10 to 15, with numerous underlings, exceptional resources, and a clear advantage over the heroes on even their best day. A villain doesn't have to be physically superior to the heroes. Indeed, an epic villain may not demonstrate any ability for combat and might never confront the heroes physically, or at least not personally. Villains run in packs, surrounded by minions who fight for them. Some villains may wield positional power using the authority of their office or their connections. A corrupt planetary governor might be no match for the heroes in a gunfight, but the players are dreaming if they think the unscrupulous governor is going to shoot it out with them. Having a number of supporters to call upon or enjoying some unusual positional authority can elevate what might be a minor villain in most circumstances, to a major or epic villain. Easy way to think about that is like if you're a fan of James Bond, like Blofeld. Okay, Blofeld does not confront Bond. He has all of his lieutenants. He has his lieutenants' underlings, or actually, he has his lieutenants, and his lieutenants have underlings, and so even the lieutenants don't want to get involved with Bond. Yeah, Glenn, that's a good point. Troubleshooters, who serve friend computer. Exactly. So yeah, there's all sorts of examples of who's the major villain, how do they need to interact with them. Bond is going to go through and he's going to judo chop all the all the low-level minions, maybe have a shootout with the lieutenant, and Blofeld's going to escape in a rocket out the back door. Yeah, it's really easy to see when you know what you're looking for. All right, allies and sidekicks. The heroes aren't the only ones fighting on the side of truth and justice. Other characters may pass through, helping them against a common foe. Allies and sidekicks are characters who join the hero party. Allies are Game Master controlled characters who serve as guides, advisors, or extra muscle for the heroes for a specific adventure. Sidekicks are player controlled henchmen who stick with the hero out of loyalty and friendship. An ally who isn't tied down to one spot might eventually become a sidekick if one of the heroes treats him with respect and demonstrates an honest friendship and concern for the character. Allies are useful tools for the Game Master. They can provide skills and firepower that the heroes lack in crucial situations. They can act as sources of information and plot devices. Allies make a story more immediate to the players. If a character known to the heroes is the victim of a crime lord, the players find themselves more involved in the story than if they'd only heard rumors of the villains. Allies can only be acquired through role-playing over time, and they aren't perfect. Allies can deceive, be deceived, betray, and make mistakes. Villains trying to win the hero's confidence may join the party as allies. Sidekicks represent a special resource for the heroes. Unlike most supporting characters, a sidekick is controlled by a player and not by the Game Master. Always obey your wearing sidekick. Acting as a second character, a sidekick augments the party's skill pool and fighting power. I'm going to get to that in just a second, Glenn. The player maintains a record sheet for his hero's sidekick and controls his actions during play. But as the Game Master, you can overrule any action you think is unreasonable or out of character for the sidekick. Or there may be times when you decide to take control of a sidekick in the interest of the story. Thoughts of selflessness and heroism aside, it's a rare sidekick who will willingly sacrifice his life for a hero. A hero can't just go out and buy a sidekick. The player has to demonstrate through good role-playing and successful adventuring that his hero has won the friendship, respect, and loyalty of the character in question. Allies who join the heroes on a temporary basis might exceed the highest character level in the party by several levels, although allies who are equal or slightly inferior to the average hero are more common. Sidekicks never attach themselves to a hero of lower level. If a sidekick ever becomes more powerful or important than the hero he follows, or believes that he has become so, he strikes out on his own. Sidekicks also make excellent character choices for players new to your campaign. The new player can leap in without a wait. The other heroes will already know something about the new hero, and they'll have an established reason to work together. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, it looks like the game has player-controlled NPCs, but this actually got me thinking about a topic we were talking about once on Talkin' Drek with Seraphis, Game Master, and Saxius, where Saxius is running a 40K Rogue Trader role-playing game, and or at least he was. I think he might have had to stop. But point being, like he'd had a player or two drop out, and then it got to the point where like he didn't have players with the character skills like to do stuff that he was planning. And so we were talking about it, and that was actually one of the suggestions that I made was making an NPC where, so like say they need a flight engineer or a gunnery officer, something like that. And so make an NPC and give that to the players to control, and but again, like pretty much only when it's necessary. Like obviously you shouldn't let a player you shouldn't let a player run a sidekick sort of like a robot drone, or like one of those bomb dogs that the Soviets used in World War II. It's like there's there's laser, death rays, protecting this corridor. I'm just gonna send the sidekick in and he'll shut it down. No, you should make them use something or do something where like the sidekick needs to do it, or they have like the only skill that could be used for it. Otherwise, the sidekick's gonna be like, I'm not gonna die. Makes sense to me. But that's kind of the point is um I actually like this because it can be used as a, hey, we need this kind of a thing. Say everybody wants to play a diplomat or a tech ops character. Okay, well, assign the characters or assign the players a bodyguard. Okay, well, cool. Now you can have your combat spec, um, who's willing to follow them around, um, without um, without needing to make a whole new character. So, and basically then they can just use like, oh, we need a guy that can shoot stuff. Cool, here's the sidekick. So, anyways, yeah, I have zero problems with henchmen or sidekicks in the game. All right, employees and followers. From time to time, heroes need hired help. Part of your job is to roleplay employees and followers and maintain their record sheets. Employees are characters personally hired by a hero and paid out of the hero's pocket. Followers obey a hero's orders because of the hero's authority, accomplishments, or magnetic personality. Character with military, civil, or corporate authority might be assigned followers to help him do a job. For example, the captain of a starship may have many followers among the officers and crew of his ship. Employees and followers are less competent than the hero himself, inclined to view the hero as their boss, superior, or leader. If it's part of their job description, employees will accompany a hero on an adventure. Employees and followers range the spectrum of competence, rebellion, and zeal. Imagine a hero who is an up and coming corporate troubleshooter. The company assigns a field team from the research division and puts the hero in charge. The leader of the field team might resent the hero since he doesn't understand why an executive is calling the shots instead of skilled scientists. One member of the team is bent on climbing the corporate ladder. Another is a maverick who doesn't like doing what anyone tells him to do, let alone an exec he's just met. Imagine the headaches you can give the players if their heroes must manage such subordinates. While employees and followers are usually less competent than the heroes, they may match or exceed the hero's skill in their areas of expertise. Party might hire a local guide whose movement, survival, and awareness skills are far superior to those of the heroes. Although their guide might prove worthless in a fight, the heroes will need his skills to get them through the adventure. Here are a few guidelines to keep in mind when the heroes deal with employees and followers. Let's see. That could put an interesting twist on any kind of a game, especially for social face guys, if the system makes them kind of weak. Yeah, exactly. So, um, yeah, it's. I mean, I think it's a more. I'm going to call it a more modern problem because needing more players or more people to fill out roles that don't necessarily get filled. So, um, yeah. Anyways, I like this. Actually, the employees and what was it? Employees and follower. Yeah, employees and followers. That could be a lot of fun. Just as far as um, like those don't have to be loyal. I love the description that they just gave, where it's like, okay, so part of the adventure is the heroes are assigned to take this science team. Okay, well, now you have to protect the science team, or one of the players is embedded in the science team, like, if it's a diplomat, something like that, for a first contact mission. And, yeah, it gives them uh, a lot of options that they've got to work with. You can throw some wrenches in it. Um, yeah, this could be a lot of fun. All right. Here are a few guidelines to keep in mind when heroes deal with employees and followers. Actually, give me 1 second. I will be right back.
Grandpa's computer. Is it always lying in Grandpa's computer?
All right, this might get awkward.
Grandpa's got two. You have to check them out.
All right, we've got a co-host now.
You can see his head.
Yes, you can barely see his head.
Wow, what are you doing?
What's Grandpa doing?
You helping Grandpa? There's so many things to touch. I don't know what to touch first.
Here, bring me his keyboard. We'll see if that helps.
Yeah.
Again, we'll see how well this works. But someone woke up from his nap, and grandma is busy. All right, here are a few guidelines to keep in mind when heroes deal with employees and followers. Employees grumble when the job gets dirty, long, or dangerous. Non-combative subordinates react like normal people to danger. They hug the ground in a gunfight, run away from hideous aliens, or freeze like a deer in headlights at the first sign of danger. Yeah. Are you helping? Employees and followers expect to be treated decently and paid on time. Heroes who abuse these characters or fail to meet their obligations may provoke resignations, legal actions, or desertions. Most employees and followers are hesitant to break laws, cross powerful people, or otherwise get themselves into serious trouble on their employer's behalf. Heroes who are hiring employees or acquiring followers must take the time and trouble to look in the right place. A high-ranking military officer can't requisition or reassign personnel unless he's on a base or aboard a ship. And even then, the base commander or ship captain may refuse his request. Administration, street smart, culture, interaction, or leadership skill checks may be called for in order to locate potential employees or followers and arrive at an understanding with them. In order to attempt one of these skill checks, the heroes should be taking steps to locate prospective employees. If heroes want to hire skilled and reliable men and women to fill out a ship's crew, they'll have to look in the places that space hands frequent, post notices or run advertisements, and possibly conduct interviews. If the players don't want to play out the process of hiring a follower, you have free license to throw incompetents, malingerers, criminals, and other rotten apples into their expedition. Okay, this is role-playing gold right here, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, like, it's like, okay, I want to hire a minion. Cool. Go through the process. I don't want to. Cool. Bob shows up and he steals your ship. You know, there's a lot of fun. You could really mess with your players if you absolutely want to. All right. The employer-employee relationship is a business deal. The employee provides a service in exchange for a sum of money. People with rare and valuable skills are hard to find and expensive to hire. Oh, let's be a little quiet. Table G23 lists some of the employees heroes are most likely to hire. The availability column gives a bonus or penalty to the hero's skill check for finding and hiring a particular type of employee. He keeps raising his hand, and I'm wondering if he's going to ask me a question. The salary column gives the basic monthly wage that the employee expects. The typical employee or follower possesses a score of 8 to 11 in his key ability and D4 skill ranks in the specialty skills of his occupation. Employees with higher ability scores or skill ranks can command higher salaries than the numbers given in the table above. All right, so we've got a few options of types of employees. No, let's not do that. You have your keyboard. Grandpa has his. I know. Super professional setup here, folks. All right. So what are the type of employees? We've got assistants, cooks, soldiers, security pro, ruffian, pilot, medic, laborer, interpreter, guide, escort, engineer, driver, space hand, steward, technician, thug. So there's all like these are just like a whole bunch of examples. Obviously, nice mix of options. Yeah, exactly. No, don't touch that keyboard. That's Grandpa's. All right. Anyways, yeah, so obviously there's all sorts of types. And this is just to give you an example. If you need something different, come up with one of your own. It's fine. All right. Experts. While experts are employees of a sort, they're unlikely to accompany a hero on adventures. Experts provide skills, resources, and information that the heroes couldn't get by themselves. A hero who needs to break into a grid system might hire an expert hacker to do it for him. While a hero who requires medical attention could seek out surgeons or medical technicians. Unlike employees, experts are one-shot resources. A hero pays a fee to obtain a service, and when the contract is up, the expert doesn't work for him anymore. Of course, it never hurts to keep a trustworthy lawyer, accountant, or investment counselor on retainer. It's a good idea for a hero to have someone to watch over his fortune if he travels a lot. Experts also differ from employees in their level of experience. They possess skill scores that are higher than the hero's own scores in specific areas. Assume that an expert has a score of 10 to 13 in his key ability and D6 plus 2 ranks in his key skills. No. A list of some common experts appears on table G24. The cost column gives the fee they charge for a particular task or a particular length of time. An expert with high ranks in his key skills may charge more. All right, so for experts, they're listing academics, attorneys, bounty hunters. I'm sorry, folks. Bounty hunters, burglars, hackers, doctors, consultants, scientists, and surgeons. And junior assistants, as I like to call them. Yes, you're funny. And you are making all the noise. I appreciate it. All right. Extras. A passerby who points out which way the villains went. A shopkeeper who sells something to the heroes. And the common guards and thugs are extras. Unlike other types of supporting characters, you should make up extras on the fly when they're needed. Extras don't need much in the way of game statistics, personality, or motivation. They're normal people doing whatever it is they do from day to day. Extras lend depth and realism to a scene. Instead of telling the players, you find out that the villains caught the B train. Consider the appearance of an irate subway passenger as an extra. You might relate the same information in a different form. A stout matron shoves her way to the front of the crowd on the subway platform. She has a tiny lapdog clamped under one arm, and she's red in the face. Are you cops? Some punks with guns just boarded the B train. Using an extra to relay information like this takes a little more time, but it helps. Whoa! Stinker. No. All right. Sorry, folks. The junior assistant hasn't quite learned his job duties yet. All right. Okay, let's start over. Using an extra to relay information like this takes a little more time, but it helps to fill the cities and streets of your campaign world. If the heroes have questions to ask, there's a universe full of supporting characters who can interact with them. Imagine the heroes quizzing the dog-toting lady about details of the villain's armament, condition, or destination. You'll have more fun and you'll draw the players deeper into the story than if you simply announce the information. Because an extra has only one job to do in any given adventure, each requires only a minimal amount of preparation. You don't need game statistics for the matron described above. The heroes probably aren't going to shoot at her, charm her, or try to strike a business deal. Extras who might turn out to be villains need a bit more. Constitution score for durability rating, an action check score, a combat-related skill, a weapon, and maybe some armor. All right, just a moment. All right. I do apologize for anybody watching this on the replay if you haven't already bounced out. Sometimes grandpa just needs to hold the grandbaby and, keep things a little calm. All right. Let's see. We need to put that back and that back. There we go. Now we're back to my layout. All right, supporting character templates. Several templates for typical supporting characters of different power and experience level are presented here. Each template includes the vital statistics for typical representatives of certain careers of marginal, ordinary, good, and amazing quality, including ability scores, action check scores, number of actions per round, key skills, and signature equipment. Marginal characters. Average members of society are non-professionals. The average ability score of a marginal template is 9, and the list of skills is small. Employ marginal characters as extras. They don't have the resources or talents of even a beginning hero and shouldn't assume roles of importance in your game. Ordinary characters have capabilities roughly equivalent to those of a beginning hero. They have a profession, a good selection of important skills, and an average of 10 points in each ability score. Ordinary characters are above the norm. Minor members of your supporting cast, both villains and allies, can be characters of this quality. Good characters wield power and versatility equivalent to level 6 heroes. The skill selection is both diverse and advanced, and the average ability score is 11 points. These characters can be major members of the supporting cast. Powerful villains and esteemed allies are characters of this quality. Amazing characters are figures to be respected or feared. These characters have stunning power at their fingertips unless you're running a superheroic campaign. They're equivalent in power to level 12 heroes and have an average of 12 points in each ability score. Amazing characters should be used only in extraordinary circumstances, such as for ultimate villains or dominant members of the supporting cast. More powerful characters possess all the skills listed for inferior characters. For example, a good character has marginal, ordinary, and good skills. These templates provide general guidelines. Feel free to modify them for your campaign's needs by changing ability scores or adding skills. For example, it's reasonable to allow a veteran and experienced character to have skills from a good template, even if the character's ability scores aren't exceptional. The individual characteristics of a member of the supporting cast should vary from figure to figure. Use the templates here when you need a character's statistics quickly, or use them as a frame to construct your own supporting characters. So, I actually like how they did these. So we'll just look at I don't want to look at an administrator. Administrators are boring. Administrator, bartender, brawler, doctor. But you'll notice like they've got, okay, here's the stat line here, for marginal, ordinary, good, amazing. Here's the list of skills. Obviously you can assume that, they have any skills listed, from lower levels into higher levels, unless that skill's been upgraded. Corporate executive, laborer, military officer, reporter, scientist, law officer. I want to look at law officer. All right. A trained police officer or constable falls into this category of combat spec. So marginal, basically everything's a 9 except for willpower 8 and dexterity 10. Action check 9 for 2 and 2 actions. Pretty basic. For ordinary, everything's a 10 except for 11 in dex. So basically they just added 1 to everything pretty much all the way up the list until we get to amazing. Then it's 12s with a 13 dex and an 11 perception. All right. So anyways, but yeah, so you can tell it's just it's not very different, but they're obviously going to be much stronger attribute wise. Your action check and then your number of actions. Obviously amazing characters with 3 actions, especially if that's going to be your villain. Then that means they're acting on 3 out of 4 phases in a round. So be aware of that. All right, for a marginal police officer, we've got melee bludgeon, modern pistol, and vehicle operation and law. Ordinary skills, we're going up to vehicle operation land, knowledge, first aid, law enforcement, investigate, interrogate, street criminal, and street knowledge and interaction. Good skills, we're going to upgrade melee bludgeon to rank 2. Melee powered modern pistol is going to be upgraded to 3, and modern rifle. So again, you can see that it's not necessarily giving a whole bunch of new skills. Sometimes it's upgrading. But yeah, these are all just good basic templates. Just to give you ideas for characters. I would use these all the time, mostly because I don't want to do the work to build a new character. So again, take this, swap it out, customize it based on what works for you in your campaign. It's all right. Attributes. This chapter I was a little bit more excited about. Because attributes are in this game are more kind of like those fluffy bits to make a character a little bit more unique, a little different. It's adding the flavors is what this does. So it's not so much statistics based as it is flavor based. All right, so this chapter examines how heroic personalities are built and incorporated into your game universe. A newly created hero is simply a fictional character, the star of a movie or the protagonist of a book, who's waiting to see what the story is going to be. Defining the hero's personality, ambitions, and place in the world represents final touches in the hero creation process. Since these final touches affect your campaign setting as much as the hero's place in it, the process demands your involvement. All right. So remember, this is all going to be coming, even though it's about, flavoring a character, this is going to be from the game master side. So, you can use it for, to help players making their characters, or you can use it for your NPCs, for your villains. Villains are characters too. Villains are people too. All right. Motivation. Don't feel constrained by the motivations that appear in the player's handbook. You can use anything as a character motivation. Encourage your players to think up new motivations when they create their characters and fashion their backgrounds and histories. Interesting and believable motivations transform a simple, stock villain into a memorable 3-dimensional nemesis who will keep your players busy for a long time. The best way to use motivations is to choose 2 for each hero or supporting cast member and see how they interact. For example, players can easily couple the winning is everything and vengeance motivations. The hero wants to gain skill in order to make his revenge possible. If you join the esoteric pursuit of science with yearn to learn with can't get enough or personal power, you might create the perfect villain for your campaign. A brilliant, evil genius determined to use his knowledge to enrich himself. Motivation is one of the most useful adventure design tools you have at your disposal. If a player is portraying his hero accurately, he'll be interested in adventure opportunities that further his hero's personal goals and he'll avoid distractions that might pull him away from realizing those goals. Knowing that the heroes have a reason to embark on an adventure or react in a certain way to a supporting character makes it much easier to plan out adventures that will seize your players' imaginations and fire their interest. Moral attitude. Moral attitude describes how a hero goes about his heroic or villainous career. Everybody knows that gallant characters don't take hostages or shoot prisoners, while an unscrupulous character will do anything it takes to get what he wants. Both characters might have the same motivation, but the ways in which they pursue their goals are different. What sort of morality do the players choose to adopt for their heroes? It takes imagination and maturity to portray a hero with a strong moral commitment, just as it does to play an amoral protagonist whose morality is defined by the people he chooses to fight against. Moral attitude shouldn't be a stat that a player rolls against or a tool that you use to build adventures for the heroes. It's an effort on the part of a player to make the story decisions that his hero would make. You have the right to reject any moral attitude that seems poorly thought out or inappropriate. You shouldn't take that step lightly. Consider sitting down and talking to your players and telling them a little about the flavor you're looking for in your game. Be prepared to negotiate. It's the player's privilege to play the character he wants. Look for ways to make any moral attitude work in the context of the adventure. Watch out for conflicting moral attitudes between members of the same adventuring group. If your players portray their characters accurately, an ethical and unscrupulous hero will conflict with each other. Sometimes conflict can stimulate intense role-playing. However, such tension can lead to conflict between players, which ultimately spoils the game. You shouldn't dictate the moral attitude of any hero, but it might not be a bad idea to ask players to choose attitudes with the other heroes in mind. Encourage your players to define roles for their heroes that build on their moral attitudes in a constructive fashion. For example, the smuggler captain might be corrupt, willing to break laws or agreements for material gain, but it doesn't mean that she's irredeemably evil. She may be brave, loyal, and faithful, dedicated to battling injustice and wrong wherever she finds it, but still willing to allow nonviolent evils to pass by unchallenged. While she's not the right hero to clean up the town's seedy underside, she'll stand shoulder to shoulder with the other heroes against the alien invaders. All right. Yeah, I don't have anything to add. I should, but I don't. It's, essentially what they're doing here is they're defining an alignment system without defining an alignment system, which I do prefer these kinds of alignment systems over more rigid ones where it's like, no, your character will act this way, as opposed to like, hey, if you have this kind of character, these are the things that you're probably going to do. If you act against these, it may change your alignment. It may change your moral attitude. So I think it does give a little bit more flexibility to players versus the old school D&D alignment system, which, don't forget, this came from TSR, so they're definitely branching out and trying something different. All right, character traits. Character traits represent style. How does the hero conduct himself when in action? Traits are the finishing touches to the character sketch, the idiosyncrasies and quirks that bring a character to life. A hero should change motivation or moral attitude only in the most unusual of circumstances, but character traits may surface or fade away without much consequence. You don't need them in the game, since the way a player handles his hero constitutes the major definition of the character's personality. But they can be good reminders to your players of how to stay in character. You can add any reasonable personality trait or attitude to the list of role-playing attributes. Encourage players to use their imaginations and build characters with engaging, multifaceted personalities. Real people aren't one-dimensional caricatures. A well-written fictional character isn't either. Take some time to ask players why their characters are lazy, selfish, or brave. If a player doesn't have a ready answer, he might be moved to think about who his character is and how he came to be that way. All right, heroes with history. A hero's background should be reflected in the role-playing attributes the player selects. A close look at the history and personality a player decides to include in a hero provides some excellent insights into what type of hero this character should be. It's one of your jobs to point out possible connections or relations between the hero's background, motivations, career, skill selection, and character traits. For example, consider the player who selects the character flaw of dirt poor. How did the hero become destitute? Was he born into squalor, or did the hero do something to deserve wretched poverty? Has poverty led him to become motivated by greed, desiring nothing more than to climb out of the economic gutter? Or does he come from a society unconcerned with poverty or wealth? Lack of wealth might be caused by a lack of culture or interaction skills. If the hero grew up as a street urchin in the urban wastelands of an industrial planet, it might be hard for him to deal with people from the middle and upper classes of the society. He might favor pushing his luck through blustering or intimidation, since that's the way he is used to dealing with people back home. On the other hand, he may grow nervous and uncomfortable around superiors, lapsing into sullen silence or relying on strained humor. The possibilities are infinite. The same street urchin could grow up to be a charming hustler, carefully hiding the evidence of a low upbringing. A well-built character is more than a collection of individual parts. The synergy resulting from the clash of background, motivations, and the other elements that make up a character create memorable heroes that compare favorably with the best-loved characters of science fiction literature. Encourage your players to develop their heroes in the creation process and during play. All right, let's see here. One thing I wanted to point out, like last night when Kim and I were doing the Batman read through, like the actual character income came up, and we were talking about how like one of the income levels is like destitute, and while it can seem odd, it is one of those things where don't be afraid to take attributes or take these situations for a character and turn it into a role-playing opportunity. I love how they're like I love how they focused mostly on the person with the dirt poor flaw, because it does give a lot more opportunities for role play. I think like sometimes taking the flaws isn't just about gaining an advantage or gaining some extra points. Sometimes it's just about getting opportunities for more role playing, and so I do like that. All right, rewards for role playing. Let's address this one. To encourage attention to character and good role playing, you have the option of rewarding a hero or the hero of a player who exemplifies his hero's characteristics in play with an extra achievement point. Evaluate the player's efforts when you would normally award achievement points. Not every player should earn a bonus achievement point in every adventure. Weigh the player's actions, words, and decisions over the course of the game session before you decide that his play merits a reward. If a player claims his hero has a virtuous moral attitude but plays him like he's unscrupulous, he clearly doesn't earn the award. A rule of thumb to help you decide which heroes merit an additional achievement award is to ask yourself which player gave the best depiction of a motivation, which provided the best demonstration of a moral attitude, and which showed the best portrayal of character traits. Each of these three characters might earn a bonus for role-playing well, but only if their players didn't ignore or contradict the other role-playing characteristics that comprise their heroes. You might have been impressed by a gallant hero's incessant optimism throughout the adventure, but if the same hero made some highly selfish decisions, he shouldn't get the award based on the portrayal of a character trait alone. Yeah, this I think kind of goes back to like when I've played games with Bear. And he like at the end of the session, he always goes through and says, okay, hey, pick your MVP of the game. And it's the same kind of thing. So you can give a little bit of a bonus. Like usually like whoever wins the MVP is gonna end up with just like an advancement or some extra experience points, whatever it is. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with rewarding players for jumping in and playing the scenario or playing their character appropriately. All right. Setting characters in the story. A campaign must provide a way for every hero to fit into the setting and the adventures that take place within it. Each hero has a unique background. Oh, let me switch back to that. Goals and personality. When you help a player develop these traits, you're giving the player a more believable and well-rounded hero, one that the player understands and likes from the start. You can create a decent character history with just a few notes. Where was the hero born? What's his family like? Why did he decide to choose the profession and career that he did? What kind of education did he receive? Why is he getting involved in the story at hand? You have a variety of ready-made histories and motivations to draw from in the world around you. Corporations, military services, and government administrations all employ heroic characters. Adventures take place as these organizations send heroes into trouble spots. A hero hired to troubleshoot a computer system on a distant outpost is a believable, realistic character with a ready-made excuse to head off into the adventure you've planned. All right. Background. People in real life define themselves through their backgrounds. Home, family, friends, and a place of origin are the foundations of an individual's personality and motivation. Well-developed fictional characters are no different. Not all people react to their upbringing and situation in the same way. One character from a rural, depressed area might enlist in the military in order to escape his hometown. Another might work through college on scholarships and night jobs, becoming a research scientist. Each character started with the same opportunities but chose a different path. A player shouldn't have to write a complete biography of his hero, but it might help to have an idea of how the hero came to be. His background might suggest special skills, talents, or contacts he should have. It also may point out unresolved stories or conflicts the hero may have to deal with. Failures and setbacks are just as important in forming a hero as successes and accolades. Work with your players to create the outline of a good history and background for each character. Let the player do most of it. The hero is his or hers to play, after all. If a player develops a hero who just won't fit in your game, offer compromises or suggestions that will help him fit in. When a player represents a hero without any background, ask some questions. Where did this guy come from? What is he doing out in space? And see what the player comes up with. All right, this is where I'm going to, put a little bit of a foot down. Like, unless you're dealing with like level 10 characters, no, that was Batman. Sorry, that was I was crossing the streams there for a second. Yeah, in Batman they actually give you rules for starting with more advanced characters. I mean, if you're going to play Batman, well, Batman's a lot more established, than Robin or Huntress or whatever. And so they actually give you ways where, okay, if you're just creating a character and you want it kind of like the equivalent of a Batman, well, then he's probably more likely like a level 10 character. And so they give you rules for adjusting it. They haven't done that in this game, at least not that I've found yet. So what, anyways, going back to what I was going to say, I mean, these are level 1 characters. Your background shouldn't be more than like 3 to 5 sentences at most. Okay. If you have a ship, maybe provide the justification of why you have a ship, but otherwise figure it out in the game. Well, I'm a recent graduate of the academy. I've been a smuggler or I've been a trader for 20 years. But I've recently turned to smuggling because I can't make ends meet. Again, whatever it is, you don't need huge, complicated backstories because A, the game master is not going to remember all of it because you made it all up. And B, stop trying to hog all the glory. Just, make a character, give him a simple background, and go. All right. Problem backgrounds. Some heroic backgrounds can present difficulties. Heroes who begin as high-ranking officers, important politicians, or top corporate executives may have resources that beginning heroes shouldn't have. Heroes who have too much money or power in their hands cannot be challenged in most adventures. That said, nothing is impossible. You can allow unusual position or rank with a little work. Maybe the character's authority won't be recognized. Imagine a planetary governor whose first job is to pacify an entire outlaw world with only a system cutter and a half a dozen aides. A corporate hotshot might be in the doghouse, a virtual exile in a nasty job that no one else wants. His requests for funds and equipment could be lost, misplaced, or ignored with depressing regularity. Wealthy heroes can be temporarily down on their luck, and high-ranking military officers might be assigned to disorganized or neglected sectors. On occasion, you can allow a player to create a hero with an unusual amount of power and authority for the sake of a good campaign scenario. For example, let a hero to be the captain or commander of a military or survey vessel. Although he's subject to orders from fleet superiors, this can develop into a campaign in which the heroes can seek out new life and new civilizations and boldly go where no one has gone before. Okay, that's a fantastic call out and a fantastic Easter egg. I have zero issues with them dropping that line in there. All right. Evolving backgrounds. Over time, a hero's background might grow, change, or develop into a major element of your campaign. Use story hooks that backgrounds suggest to hold on one second. To create adventures that have an immediate and obvious significance to the heroes. As a hero resolves his early motivations or defeats old villains, his background might change. New motivations and new adventures bring a natural evolution to the game, and changes during play to keep the heroes and the campaign interesting. So again, same kind of deal. Don't let the player run roughshod with their background. All right. Contacts and allegiances. Many heroes have access to a special resource in the form of a person or organization they can call on in times of need. A contact is an individual or small group of individuals that have the power to assist the hero in some way. Unlike a contact, an allegiance represents a person or organization to whom the hero owes loyalty. A corporation, government agency, military organization, or similar group. Any hero can choose to begin a game with an allegiance, and some backgrounds or career packages logically require a beginning hero to choose an allegiance. Contacts. Each contact a hero has should be developed as a supporting character. If the contact is in a risky occupation or brought into the line of fire by the hero, fill out a complete hero sheet. However, if the contact isn't going to get shot at or be called upon to make skill checks, leave the description as a simple sketch of a few notes. Contacts don't normally accompany heroes on adventures, unless the task is of compelling interest to the contact. The purpose of a contact is to provide information, resources, or expert skills. Contacts differ from the followers, allies, and sidekicks described in the previous chapter. Most of them aren't inclined to risk their lives or their hero prosperity for a hero. Aren't inclined to risk their lives or their prosperity for a hero. When a player chooses a contact for his hero, you should decide how much assistance the contact can provide. A rule of thumb is that the more powerful, important, or wealthy the contact is, the less time the contact has for the hero. If a hero lists the planetary governor as a contact, it should become clear that the governor is hard to reach and constrained by the merciless gaze of public scrutiny. It might be wiser to have someone in the governor's office as a contact, a person who is easier to reach and less conspicuous than the most important person on the planet. Information. An information contact can discover things the heroes normally couldn't find out. You can use this character as a mouthpiece when you need to pass information to the heroes during an adventure. Other times, the players might think of asking their contacts for help when they don't know what they should be doing. Oh, I love this. A nice simple sidebar. Information contacts. Bartender, bouncer, bum, cop, entertainer, gang member, hacker, merchant, mobster, night watchman, prostitute, reporter, secretary, store owner, taxi driver, trader. Fantastic list. Yeah, and all of them, they're going to get you information, but not necessarily get involved in the fight. All right, resource. A resource contact can provide whatever you want to give the heroes: equipment, money, personnel, or transportation. A soldier hero may not be able to take his battle armor into a starport under normal conditions, but a resource contact might be able to obtain a suit for special training purposes. Resource contacts may have subordinates whose services a hero needs. Obviously, the contact might get bent out of shape if the hero is careless or indiscreet with the resource he's been given. So obviously we've got bureaucrats, corporate executives, crime boss, gang boss, government official, military officer, mob boss, police captain, politician, ship captain, supply sergeant, and union boss. Yeah, fantastic. Expert. Expert contacts have skills or abilities that the heroes don't have. Usually the hero brings a situation to his contact's attention and asks the contact to address it. For instance, a hero might need to analyze a stellar phenomena, a stellar event such as supernova. If his contact is a noted astrophysicist, he could bring a recording to the observatory and ask his friend to take a look. So, agent, bureaucrat, doctor, engineer, fence, forensic examiner, grid pilot, historian, investigator, mechanic, paramedic, scholar, scientist, soldier, space hand, surgeon, technician. Basic. Again, these are, I don't have skill. I need someone with skill. We have contact for skill. Other contacts. A contact can be just about any kind of character the player can imagine. Even a library clerk can help the heroes out by permitting admission into restricted archives or allowing them to do research after hours. All right. Allegiances. Much like a contact, an allegiance acts as a source of information, resources, and general help for a hero. Unlike a contact, an allegiance represents a tie to a larger organization. As a result, an allegiance has the potential to produce correspondingly greater effects than a contact. The downside of an allegiance is that the hero may be subject to orders and policies that restrict the hero's actions and force the hero to do things contrary to personal desires. Another disadvantage is that people who don't care for the hero's organization won't think much of the hero either. Agents of rival organizations view him as an enemy. For the game master, an allegiance provides a ready and easy means to direct a hero. A command from a hero's organization can manipulate him into all sorts of adventures. Since the organization views the hero as an employee, it will hand out tasks for the hero to perform. Using contacts and allegiances. It shouldn't require a skill check for a hero to make use of a contact or allegiance. Asking a local criminal about gang activity is simply smart play. A skill check may be appropriate when a hero attempts to acquire exceptionally sensitive information, requisition unusual resources, or call upon his contact or allegiance in areas outside its normal territory or jurisdiction. Interaction, business, and street smart are commonly used when associating with contacts. Administration, business, and interaction are useful in dealing with allegiances. Once you've selected the most appropriate skill for a hero to use, several modifiers may apply. If the hero has irritated, insulted, or abused his connection in the past, the skill check should suffer a penalty. If the hero has been extremely generous with a contact or demonstrated loyalty to an allegiance, apply a bonus instead. In addition, modifiers may be called for if the hero attempts to make use of his contact or allegiance in an inappropriate situation or far from its base of operation. The grade of success governs the type and degree of assistance a hero receives. Some rough guidelines. Critical failure, no help. Marginal success, information is partial or outdated. Resources may be delayed or inadequate, or an expert might have to ask permission before he can work on the problem. Ordinary success, information is sufficient to steer the heroes toward their next goal. Resources fulfill the hero's needs. An expert can examine the situation and make a skill check. Good success. Requested information is detailed and accurate, possibly allowing the heroes to skip an intermediary step or approach the next part of the adventure with a distinct advantage. Resources include top-notch personnel or exceptionally fine equipment. The expert can consult with others in his field, gaining a bonus on his own skill check. Amazing success. The requested information is extremely accurate, granting the heroes a significant advantage in the next part of the adventure. Any request for resources is evaluated as crucially important, and the heroes receive personnel, materials, or funds well in excess of what they thought they would need. An expert has access to specialized knowledge in the very field the heroes need and automatically succeeds in analyzing the situation. And finally, losing contacts and breaking allegiances. It can be difficult to keep track of contacts or allegiances over the course of a campaign. Since contacts are maintained by story decisions and role playing, they can be alienated or lost in the same way. A hero who is rude or ungrateful to his contact is likely to find that his contact isn't willing to help him the next time he's in town. Similarly, a hero who violates his organization's code of ethics, policies, or laws of conduct may find himself unemployed or even wanted for criminal actions. You have the option of terminating a contact or even an allegiance by means of events in the campaign. Contacts die in the line of duty, perhaps while they're coming to the hero's aid. They can retire, change jobs, or relocate. Meanwhile, agencies, military organizations, and even nations may fall into ruin, effectively ending an allegiance. While these incidents may produce fantastic material for the campaign story, it's generally best to minimize such comprehensive changes. You can also consider allowing the character to develop a new contact with the old one's successor or swear an allegiance to a new organization. I think that's actually a really good point that usually doesn't get brought up, or at least I've not seen it brought up, where you have these contacts, but that doesn't guarantee that that you actually are able to take advantage of them, or that they get lost. I don't think that comes up often enough. It's usually just like, oh, I have a contact here. Bah, works. You know, that alone can change up your campaign, can change up how that game is going to progress, because sorry, this contact isn't available anymore. Honestly, I'd never thought of that before. So that's on me. All right, social status. Achievement points measure advances in fighting power, technical or social skills, and overall competence. Another way to record a hero's progress through the campaign is the hero's social status. These optional rules describe how high a hero has climbed on society's ladder. Is he a junior operative, a top-notch field commander, or a director? A hero may be a level 20 free agent and the toughest operative in his organization, but still take orders from lower-level characters with a social status higher than his. Competence and ability do not always bring success in society. Social status is divided into 3 categories: authority, wealth, and fame. Authority is a gauge of the hero's importance in the campaign, although it isn't as fair or absolute as a hero's experience level. Some heroes prefer to remain anonymous, avoiding the duties and obligations that come with standing in the world. Other heroes gladly accept the challenges of a higher station. By elevating his social status, a hero declares his intention to control events in the world instead of responding to events driven by outside forces. Heroes with a high authority level occupy positions of power. They're high-ranking military officers, important elected officials, corporate executives, department heads, or senior bureaucrats and administrators. They gain strong allegiances to specific organizations and the ability to bring the organization's resources to bear on situations they encounter. I'm gonna actually go a little bit different on the authority, especially because it's not as fair as absolute as a hero's experience level. One way to think about that is like a second lieutenant or an in the army, or an ensign in the navy. They are officers. They have actual authority, but they're low level. They're just getting started. They're recent college graduates. So, there's I mean, the newest second lieutenant technically has more authority than the most senior of enlisted men. So that's one way that you can think about it. Does your character have this authority, but are they maybe a little bit behind in the experience level? in order or in their ability to deal with these situations. Hold on just a moment. All right. Wealth. Social status also serves as a measure of a hero's wealth, finances, and investments. Wealthy heroes may be able to afford starships, planetary bases, or other extremely expensive. I think Grandma stepped away for a minute. Purchase. Hold on. What was the? Wealthy heroes may be able to afford starships, planetary bases, or other extremely expensive purchases through ownership of profitable enterprises. Wealthy characters exert influences of their own. One effect of a high wealth level is a steady flow of money into the character's account, even if he doesn't spend time pursuing business interests. His existing investments and enterprises earn money for him. At the highest levels of wealth, characters could pull in thousands or millions of dollars every month. Fame. Some people wield influence out of proportion to their authority or wealth. Famous celebrities, retired politicians, and renowned scientists are examples. People respect and fear those whom they regard as their social superiors. This translates to contacts and bonuses in encounter scenes for a character with a high fame level. Yeah, exactly, Glenn. But when you're flipping through pages, it's not as big a deal because you just turn the page and skip over the giant table in front of you. All right, the social status scale. Social status is broken into 21 levels, ranging from 0 to 20. It's likely for a hero to have different levels in the three categories. For instance, a hero with lots of money but no special position or authority may have a social status of 7, 15, 8 for authority, wealth, and fame, respectively. Military officers and civil servants usually wield more authority than wealth or fame. A starship commander might have a status of 14, 8, 8. So actually, let's look at the... Okay, so here's the social status table. Okay, and then they give an example of each. So level 0, convicted felon or slave. Authority plus 5 penalty, wealth none, fame plus 5 penalties. So that's a 0, 0, 0. Whereas if we look at like 20, commander in chief, mega corporate CEO, interstellar ruler, authority -5 bonus, wealth $1 million a month or more, fame -5 bonus or 50 contacts. Yeah, Glenn, exactly. They it's just for a quick comparison. So like using this example, so like the hero with lots of money but no special position may have a social status of 7, 15, 8. So if we look at our chart, so 7, no modifiers, 15 for wealth, $15,000 a month, and 8 for fame, no modifiers. I would say so. So like character X can give a order to character Y because their authority level is higher. Exactly. I mean, so that's one of the things that they show in here. So like 7, non-commissioned officer, 9, junior officer. Okay, so the junior officer that again, go back to my my example about a fresh second lieutenant. Fresh second lieutenant, the sergeant major's gonna look at him like he's an idiot for giving him an order. But if the second lieutenant gives an order, he is an officer. He has that authority. So, like it doesn't matter. Like notice none of like once we like top enlisted man, senior enlisted man, non-commissioned officer. any authority level 7 and below, this junior officer, Butterbar second lieutenant comes in, issues an order. Technically, according to military rules, sergeant major better jump. Second lieutenant's going to get busted 8 ways from Sunday when, the major, the colonel, whatever that's works directly with the sergeant major comes in and busts him. But yeah, that's absolutely how that works. I actually really like this system. It's a nice, like, obviously you have to know what they are, and there's going to be some cross reference to go back and forth. Wait, what's this level? What does this one mean? Especially when it comes to like money, things like that. But yeah, it's a nice, simple shorthand way of who's going to be above somebody else in the pecking order. All right, a hero's authority level gives him a bonus or penalty in dealing with organizations allied to or associated with his position. This may be applied to administration, business, law, investigate, street smart, or leadership. Wealth level describes how much money the hero commands for his principal, employment, or business investments. The number listed is a rough estimate, which you may adjust. If you allow heroes to collect salaries, you should use the rules on income and finances later in this chapter for spending and receiving money if heroes don't have any bills to pay. The monthly income listed will probably be too much to hand out. Fame level gives the hero a bonus in dealing with individuals who are aware of his status and likely to be impressed by it. It could also provide a penalty to encounters in situations where fame is expected and a hero has low fame level. Skills this bonus may apply to include administration, business, culture, deception, interaction, and leadership. Hey, nerds. Good morning. These contacts are people whom the hero sponsors, associates with, or supports in some way. For instance, a high-profile hero may be friends with a local governor because he offered financial support and an endorsement in the governor's last re-election campaign. All right, I just thought of an interesting one because you've got authority and then you've got fame. Remember, fame is celebrity, things like that. But I do want to stick with the military example, and nerds will probably be able to tell me I'm an idiot if I'm getting any of this wrong. But here's a way to think about it. So, all right. So non-commissioned officer, rank 7 for authority. And the example I'm going to use is Sergeant Major Mike Vining. Now, if you don't know who Mike Vining is, let's see here. It's sorry, I'm gonna have to switch stuff around. So let's stop that share and we're going to share a new one. All right. So this is Sergeant Major Mike Vining. Explosive ordnance disposal, Delta Force, and general nerdy looking dude. So if you think about it, so like he's gonna be a level, he's gonna have like an authority level 7. He's a non-commissioned officer. That's where he's going to cap out. But his fame level, I was actually talking with the son of a friend of mine. And so like if you look at his jacket, like this tells you a lot about him. Okay. He's got a combat infantry badge. He's got airborne wings with a special forces badge behind it. He's a master explosive ordnance disposal. He's got free fall jump wings. He's got a Vietnam a ribbon for service in Vietnam with 3 stars on it. So multiple tours. Over here, that's the badge for Delta Force. So as soon as you start putting all of this together, his authority might only be a 7 because he's a non-commissioned officer. He's sergeant major, so he's capped out as high as he can go as far as the enlisted ranks. But but the fame level, just being able, if you look and you understand what all of this means, that fame level is going to be off the charts. Especially when you realize that like basically he was involved in the rescue attempt in Iran during the overthrow of the Shah, stuff like that. I mean, dude is nuts. Or actually, he's not nuts. Actually, from what I can tell, he's a rather well-adjusted individual. Yeah, nerds. They used a lot of whiteout redacting this man's body count on official docs. Exactly. I like this. Tells me he's a nerd and an overachiever. But yeah, so with that, you could easily put that, like especially now that some things have been declassified, pictures have come out, things like that. Maybe he's got, he's only got authority 7, but he's got, fame of 14 or 15. So maybe you want to throw him at fame 20, something like that. Like fame doesn't even necessarily have to mean that they're well known. It could just be that actually, like looking at this, so fame of 20. So he's got a -5 bonus, some -5 steps in certain social skills, and 50 contacts. You think a guy like that doesn't have contacts all over the world in all sorts of organizations, even though he's, in his 70s and, like well out of the game? I guarantee you this man has contacts. This man, can get things done. So yeah, making him fame level 20, probably not unreasonable. He is a bit older, so maybe you want to drop it to like a 19 or an 18, so maybe he doesn't have as many contacts. But again, there's absolute, like, I think that's a great description of how it's how the social status is different according to which aspect it is, the authority, the fame, or the authority, wealth, or fame. So let's see. All right, starting social status. The social status of a beginning hero depends on profession, career, background, and the perks and flaws the player selects. Heroes start with a social status of 0 in each category. If a character is using a career not listed on the table, or no career at all, choose a career that most closely matches the character's concept. All right, let's read the example on this one just to see how they're figuring it out. All right. Ryaza is a fearsome Werin. She's a combat spec and soldier with the primitive flaw and an allegiance. Her social status is 730. While neither rich nor famous, Ryaza has the ability to command in her organization. Meanwhile, Jack Everstar begins play as a dashing actor of some fame. He's a diplomat and entertainer with the celebrity perk, with a social status of 369. Everstar has almost no ability to issue orders, but has begun to make a name for himself. You should take a free hand in adjusting a hero's social status. If your campaign takes place in an urban blight, heroes might have very low status. If your heroes are to be the champions of a galaxy, adjust their social status accordingly. Oh, that's a great point, Glenn. Fame absolutely can depend on social circles. You know, just another great example. Okay, I love watching The Fat Electrician. He's hilarious. He does great videos. He brings up stuff that I never would have thought of, people I had never heard of, things like that. But the number of times that I'll be talking to people, I'm like, "Oh, have you heard of The Fat Electrician?" And they're like, "Who?" You know, internet super famous. I think he's over 1 million subscribers. But so many people have never heard of him. You know, so absolutely, fame depends on your social circles. All right, income and finances. Should you keep track of how much money a hero has? People in the everyday world have to balance their checkbooks and mind their expenses, but it's not particularly exciting for heroes to be constrained by such mundane concerns. Here are several ways you can address this issue in your campaign. Money doesn't matter. After players select equipment for their beginning heroes, throw finances out the window. If the heroes need a specific piece of gear, assume that it is provided by their employer, sponsor, or parent organization. When an agency assigns a mission to a hero, the tools to get the job done are included. If the heroes want to make use of specialized equipment or big ticket items, you might have them attempt contact or allegiance roles in order to get their hands on the gear. Since they are supported completely by their parent organization, they're also obligated to undertake the missions they're assigned. In the ballpark, the hero's wealth level represents the amount of money the hero makes each month plying a primary trade. It may be a salary or the sum of commissions, bounties, negotiated contracts, research grants, interest, or dividends on investments. Assume that the hero has liabilities proportionate to his income. 75% of his monthly salary goes towards upkeep. The other 25% is disposable income. Since this method involves estimation, don't worry about calculating loans, interest rate, credit cards, or any other headaches of modern financial systems. If a hero wants something, he can save up to buy it. After all, heroes tend to confiscate equipment from bad guys, so they accumulate assets faster than average folks do. If heroes accumulate money too quickly, you can rule that participating in prolonged adventures hurts their income. If a hero's principal source of income is carrying cargo and passengers on a system freighter, and he spends weeks flying the other heroes around on various adventures, he won't earn an income that month. Heroes pay the rent. The most realistic and involved option is to keep close track of the hero's expenses. Heroes at the low end of the income scale may be motivated to undertake adventures just to stay out of debt. The tables below provide rough guidelines for some of the expenses a hero might face. Okay, so yeah, here's your bills. Housing and utilities covers the basic necessities of putting a roof over the hero's head. Lifestyle covers groceries, clothing, entertainment, housekeeping, and anything else the hero needs to get along. Payments and maintenance refers to the cost of any items the hero owns that are worth more than a month's salary. For example, a hero with a $20,000 used Sky car must pay $1,200 per month on payments, insurance, and maintenance. Heroes can do anything with their finances that they like, but remember, heroic fiction isn't about going to work at a 9-to-5 job, paying the mortgage, and buying a new car now and then. It's about heroes doing things that ordinary people don't do. All right. I would not do that. I would probably, at most, I would do in the ballpark. You know, what's something you need? Do I need to make you roll to see if you acquire it? You know, my wife might like a good budget spreadsheet, but it's a role playing game. It's going to kill the fun. So I'm not interested. All right. There we go. We managed to get through 2 chapters, chapter 6 and 7. What were they? Supporting cast and attributes. There we go. Yep, I knew that. So, tomorrow we're going to come back. We're going to look at achievements. This it's not a small chapter, but it's not the biggest one. So it'll probably be a short stream tomorrow. I probably won't. I'll probably do it right after work as I normally do. Today I just needed to crash. Oh wait. No, we're going to try and do achievements and running the game. That's right. No, I can fit those. That'll work. And then that'll leave vehicles, spaceships, and everything for next week. All right. Cool. Honestly, I really like this. A lot of this is just kind of basic role-playing advice, but as I've said a couple of times now, that's one of the reasons I'm reading it. I've bought Game Masters guides. I've bought, like tips for Game Masters, and I'm bad about just reading them. So I'm reading it. I want to be better, and it's an info dump, but we're getting there. We'll get better. So with that said, again, coming back tomorrow morning, I've obviously still got I'm running myself ragged, so we'll get it all figured out. But regardless, it's been fun. So make sure you hit the like button if you've enjoyed it. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more, if you're new here. Regardless, thank you so much for hanging out with me, everybody. I hope you got something out of it. I know I did. And so far, I'm really, really enjoying it. And I will let you all know what happens with me running a game. Because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I have people that are going to mock me relentlessly if we don't do it. So I will absolutely follow up, and we'll let you know how that goes. So on that note, I'm going to go. I'm going to get ready to go lift some weights. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everybody.